Alrighty guys, it's been a couple days. I'm back out here in the shed. And I had to backtrack a little bit. I pulled the transmission back off, as you can see. Got that in. I got the gasket made up. Oh, the final drive. I think in the last video I had it laying on its side, and the shaft on the other side I had 5-minute epoxy in there. That's all fine. I got it stood up, picked it up with that little forklift, wiggled and played around. I got it in the cart. I got to raise the back up a little bit. It's not perfect yet. Ran a tap through all the holes, made the gasket, ready to go. I was playing with this after I put the transmission in, and I couldn't get the PTO shaft. Didn't want to disengage, and I was playing with this lever. So there, actually, I can turn it now because the inner input shaft is for the PTO. The outer one is for the transmission itself. I couldn't get it to disengage, and so now there it's disengaged. You can't see it, but the lever's shaft not turning up at the front. It turns free, other than the restriction in the little support bracket. I thought maybe I buggered something up, putting it into the clutch. Maybe it was binding or whatever. I had tried. The pedals, of course, were all disconnected, but I got a C-clamp onto the lever that goes into your throw bearing for the clutch. I got that free. It still didn't want to disengage. So, not that big a deal. Actually, it only took me about 10 minutes this morning. I've pulled it back out. Still couldn't get it to disengage. Really hard to see. I took the top off. I got the light, put the light in the bottom. I'm looking and looking. The little collar, the throw collar, it goes back and forth. Finally realized it wouldn't come far enough back. I've got the close-up camera going here in a second. So in the other camera, this is the lever that engages or disengages. And this little plate here has, I'll take this off in a second, it has two little slots, I guess we'll call them. And then I also noticed there was a little wee bit of an adjustment on here. So I said, oh, okay. I moved the adjustment all the way forward, and it made it better, but it still didn't make it perfect. There's obviously just a little wee bit of wear in the linkages. So I took this bracket off. Oops, dropped my washer. Am I in that camera? Yeah. This little knob that's in the center, I welded a little bit onto there, and then I took the grinder and I moved the slot forward, and now it's working. So there's a washer, there's a lock washer on the front, and then there's a spacer washer on the back. And while I had this off, I took this all off, and there's a spring in there, and put a little bit of penny oil on it. If I had realized what it was, I wouldn't have had to take the transmission back off, but I kind of figured I had buckered something up. But so the fellow that was running this machine, the way it was set, actually the PTO would have just ran continuous, that's all. He was probably just putting up with it. Maybe didn't realize it was a simple fix. I didn't realize it was a simple fix. Let me put this back together. So there. Now, nearly impossible for me to see what's going on and down in there. So there it's disengaged. I can only see half the collar, but I can see the gear that it slides on. And then there's a fairly large gear there that drives that fiber gear for the oil pump. And on the back side of it, it's got the gear that the collar couples the two together, right? So occasionally I got it in the wrong spot. There, right there, it doesn't want to go. But of course, if the engine was running, everything's going to be spinning. You would play with the clutch, and I'm just going to turn the shaft here, and in it goes. All right, that is fixed. Only wasted a little time. Nothing serious. It ain't about the destination, guys. It's the journey. In theory, this should actually go back in. The other day I said, oh, well, I didn't videotape putting it in. Truth be told, the battery died in that camera. So, according to theory, so now there, I just touched the clutch. So I'm gonna engage that so that I can turn that. And this is the same thing I had the other day. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Okay, let me make sure that I am turning. Where's my light? Make sure that I am turning the... Okay, so yeah, that's the inner one. No, see, that one's not engaged. All right, so now I'm turning that one. It's a little... Oh, I probably want a lower gear or a higher gear. That's better. Just so that it's a little easier for me to turn. I don't know what gear I'm in, but it doesn't really matter. All right, let's try this again. I didn't have it in gear. I thought I did. Must have somehow knocked it out of gear. It just slid right together. Actually, way better than the first time I did it. Okay, let me put a couple bolts in it. And that was the whole problem I had last time. I couldn't get that to go free. And had myself, that's in. Had myself very concerned about that. It would have really sucked to have the whole thing back together. And then found out I had a huge problem. All right, let me get this bolted up. I'll bring this closer. I'll get that leveled up a little wee bit. And I'll bring you guys back. Give me a few minutes. All right, guys. I got this all sorted out, I think. Lifted up the back. I had the level on here. Got that level. I still may have to raise lower. When I stand and look down here, I'm not lined up yet. But that's fine. Cleaned all the paint off the pinion. I put a little bit of gasket maker, paste, silicone, whatever you want to call it, on the back side of this gasket. This compartment obviously does have oil. I didn't put it on both sides. Sometimes that makes for a real pain in the ass if you ever have to take this back apart again. It might leak, might cause me some grief, whatever. Sorted out the bearing. This is I've got to get the seal into this. But I got the bearing with its snap ring and the races, and there's a spacer that goes on here. Actually, I actually went back and rewatched the video when I took this apart several months ago now. The inner race of this had flown off. I couldn't really tell which side this piece, there's a close-up camera, I couldn't decide which piece, if this went on this side or on this side, and I was playing around here. Went and watched the video, it came very clear very quickly. And I do remember when I took this bearing piece off that there's a snap ring in here, and it had popped out, and it was just on the inside of here. You can see in the close-up camera that with that ring on there, that just fits in here pretty darn nice. And I remember when I took that apart that snap ring was just sitting there, and I was very confused by that. I've spent a few minutes here, and I think, famous last words, that I've got it all sorted out. Got the bolts ready. I've got to take that bracket off the bottom, but I got to get this in. And I got a couple snap rings here, and I went to look for that piece of 1x1 square, but I haven't yet. So anyway, let's just see how far we get. I got to make sure that the PTO shaft doesn't actually hit this crown gear on the way in. Slides right through there. Perfect, actually. Get it far enough in. Okay, I got to find that piece that I had on here. Let's put all these pieces. Let's set all these pieces over there. That's got to go like that. That's got to go on there. A spacer. These two spacers and snap ring have to go. I can probably put this one on, actually. I can put that one on. It just goes on the PTO shaft and goes up against that little gear that's down there. All right, I have to find that piece of square tube I had. Give me a second. It's not the same piece, but it certainly will do. A couple of zip ties. Okay, that'll just take the weight. Now I'll get rid of that bracket that's down there. That'll go in the drawer of John Deere Special Service Tools. Now, I've still also got that red dot there. I'm talking with my neighbor about it. He actually didn't think that that was all that critical, which kind of surprised me, but I can see my red marks there. I'll put that over. I'm putting it on that side. See how we go here. Okay, I'm coming up. PTO shaft was just rubbing up against the bull gear. I can see that the top of this has to go that way a little bit. This actually doesn't look too bad back here. I can also see this is going to have to go down too. Okay, well let me see if I can just, I'm just going to try and move this over. Okay, yeah, that's pretty easy. But I'm going to have to lower it some. I can see that quite clearly now. All right, I got that about as close as it's going to go. I'm looking at this dowel here. I have to drop a good 3/4 of an inch. So, it's going to take a couple of minutes. I'm going to pause these cameras, save some flash cards, save some battery, and I'll bring you guys back. I'm just going to put a jack under here, and then I got to go find a block that's, or a combination of blocks that are just a little wee bit less than that. So, bring you back in a minute. Stay tuned. Not ideal. All right, I got that piece of 1/2 inch plywood out of there. See how that works for us. Okay, what am I hitting here? At the back of the PTO shaft, the gear that's on the PTO shaft meshes with the gear for the low speed or the other PTO. You got your 2-speed ones. I just got to make sure that just wiggle it back there to get them to go. Okay, so now I can see that this needs to that's actually not bad. Bring this other side down. Oh, the PTO or the dowel pin at the bottom, it just the end of it has a little bit of a chamfer. It has gone in, so I'm going to see if I can get a bolt on this side. And I can too. I certainly wouldn't want to put a lot of torque on it. It's almost like this one is off to this side a little wee bit. It's like I need to rotate. I should see if I can get a bolt on the other side. Let's see if I can get a lower one. I actually got one right beside that dowel pin. I think that'll be a whole lot better for me. It's probably in about 2 or 3 threads. I think having that one, and then if I just tap this, it should rotate this thing for me. And it does. So this dowel pin here, it's actually just towards the camera, ever so slightly. And if I tighten this wedge I have down at the bottom, I'm sure that should push that over. That is so close. Plug your ears. Try not to get the way of that camera. That's pulling in. Okay, I just want to make sure. Just grabbing the crown, pinion, that all feels good. I think I'm golden, guys. I'm going to tighten the one on the other side a little wee bit. And then I get another one started up here near the top on the other side. All right, that's that. There's two left. They go down around the bottom, but the blocks of wood are in my way. So we'll deal with those guys later. I'm going to have to look up, see what the torque specs are. Not too concerned about it, though. On the far side, you can't even get the box end. You have to do it with the open end, so I'm not sure how I would torque them anyway. I'll look it up, see what it is, and then I'll worry about that later. I think I'm going to try right now is just get this bearing back in, then I can do away with my homemade support there, and then possibly coffee time, guys. Let's see what we can do down here. All right, in the close-up camera, I think you can see. Let me get the other light. This is the back side of the gear that meshes with the here. It's actually not up as high as it should be up, but we'll resolve that in a second. So this little spacer goes in there, and I don't see that there's much of a difference. There's a little wee tiny chamfer on this side, so I'm going to put it this way. Then, out of the camera, there's a snap ring on here. That's going to come up against this housing, stops the bearing from going too far in. It was this piece of inner race. It can go in either way, actually. If I can get it out of there. It can go this side, or it could go that side. I was a little puzzled by that earlier, couldn't remember. I went and watched the video when I took this off. That went flying. So I figured out pretty fast which way this is supposed to go. So this has got to go in here. Now this bearing, it is tight. I took a piece of emery cloth, fine emery cloth, and I cleaned up the shaft where this bearing's going to ride. I thought there was a burr there. There's a spot for another snap ring. And I thought that maybe there was a little wee bit of a burr there. So I cleaned that up. But yeah, it is snug. So I'm going to find something that fits over here. Obviously, I don't want to hit on the outer race. The outer race is going to go into the housing. But the inner race was a little snug on the shaft. So at the moment, I think I'm going to tighten my zip ties. That wants to go in already. This is the piece that's a little bit snug. Got myself a flat punch instead here. And see then when this piece here, this is the piece with the seal, that catches this whole thing. Not ready to put the seal in there just yet though. I'm trying to remember which way this went. Yeah, something like that. But anyway, I want to get that snap ring. I think it's all going to go on there a little. Oh, you know what? That's probably it. Let me go find my snap ring pliers for this snap ring here. And then there she is. So This snap ring stops the inner piece of the bearing from coming out. This bearing's actually up against, it's up against the gear on the inside. And then when this goes on, that snap ring and bearing seat in there. Okay, I'm not putting that in yet. I got to get that seal. I have the seal. I just don't know where I put it. It was a little while ago. Okay, I'm just going to leave that for now. And everything still turns. Okay, I can get rid of this. Let me get a pair of side cutters and get rid of that. Get that out of my way. Okay, so the pinion, I'm turning the crown a little bit, not much, but it's all free. That PTO shaft feels and looks good. It's now engaged. It's now free. Good stuff. All right, I guess next I will jack this back up again. Get rid of these two carts, get rid of all these two timbers. I'll just support it at the back. Then of course we got to check. Actually, no, I'm not going to get rid of these carts yet. Not just yet. I'm going to get my neighbor to come over. He and I are going to check this backlash. I don't think that I'm going to need to pull this back off. I think I can do it by removing this piece on there and on this side and moving shims left and right. I think that's the way I'm going to need to adjust this backlash. But there are also shims behind that pinion gear. So there is a possibility that I will need to pull this back off again. So I'm not going to move it. Guys, I can see by the clock right behind that camera that it is officially coffee time. So I think I'm going to call it a day. I definitely appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out and shop with me. You guys take care, and we'll see you next time in my old tractor shed. Ciao!